The convergence, the mist, had been gathering for 3 days, thick and unnatural, clinging to the valley floor like something alive. Marcus first noticed the wrongness when the birds stopped singing, not gradually, but all at once, as if someone had severed an invisible thread connecting every living throat to its voice. He stood at his cabin's window, watching the fog writhe with purposeful motion. Within its gray depths, shapes moved, massive, deliberate, silent. The first glimpse came as a shadow within shadow, something enormous passing just beyond the veil, its form suggesting multiple swaying appendages that might have been necks or tentacles or something else entirely. The temperature had dropped 15 degrees overnight, though no weather system could account for it. Marcus's breath fogged the glass as he pressed closer, straining to understand what his eyes refused to properly process. The shapes multiplied, their movements synchronized in ways that defied natural explanation. They seemed to flow rather than walk, their forms undulating with an ancient rhythm that made his stomach clench with primal recognition. By the second day, the silence had become absolute. No insects hummed, no leaves rustled. Even the wind had died, leaving only the oppressive weight of watching eyes he could not see. The mist pressed against his windows like curious fingers, and within it the beasts gathered. Marcus counted dozens of them now, their silhouettes revealing the impossible architecture of their forms. Each creature bore multiple heads, some 3, others 5. One monstrous thing that seemed to sprout a dozen swaying appendages from its central mass. The heads moved independently, turning and tilting with deliberate intelligence, as if each possessed its own consciousness while serving some greater collective will. Their eyes, when glimpsed through momentary clearings in the fog, reflected no light. They were voids that seemed to drink in illumination, leaving dark spots in Marcus's vision that lingered long after he looked away. The creature's skin appeared to shift between textures, sometimes scaled, sometimes smooth as wet stone, occasionally rippling with patterns that hurt to perceive directly. On the 3rd morning, Marcus discovered he could no longer leave, not because doors wouldn't open or windows wouldn't break, but because his body simply refused to approach any exit. His muscles locked whenever he tried to step outside, as if some deeper part of his brain understood that the gathering beyond his threshold had reached critical mass. The beasts had arranged themselves in concentric circles around his cabin, their forms barely visible through the perpetual mist. They stood motionless for hours, then moved in perfect unison, slow, ritualistic repositioning that brought them incrementally closer. Their many heads swayed in hypnotic patterns, creating a visual rhythm that made Marcus's thoughts feel sluggish and strange. Sleep became impossible. Whenever he closed his eyes, he felt their collective gaze penetrating the walls, examining him with the patient intensity of scientists studying a specimen. The sensation crawled across his skin like invisible insects, raising goosebumps that never faded. His reflection in mirrors began to look foreign, as if something fundamental about his appearance was slowly changing. The air itself grew thick, taking on a metallic taste that coated his tongue and made swallowing difficult. Shadows moved wrong, bending at angles that violated basic geometry. The cabin's familiar corners seemed to stretch and contract when he wasn't looking directly at them, as if reality itself was being gently reshaped by the creature's presence. By the fourth day, Marcus understood that the gathering was complete. The beasts had achieved whatever configuration they sought, their ancient forms arranged in patterns that spoke to purposes beyond human comprehension. They no longer moved, having settled into their final positions with the finality of chess pieces claiming checkmate. The mist began to clear, revealing the true scope of their assembly. Hundreds of the multi-headed entities surrounded his cabin in perfect geometric formation, their impossible anatomies creating a living mandala of flesh and consciousness. Each creature was unique, yet part of a greater whole, their combined presence generating a field of wrongness that made the air shimmer like heat waves. Marcus felt his sanity beginning to fray at the edges, unraveling like an old sweater. The beast's many eyes fixed upon his windows with patient hunger, waiting for something he could not name but knew. With growing certainty, he would eventually provide. The gathering was complete. Now came the harvest.